There was a time when I came home every evening and just sat in the dark. Not because I was sad, not because I didn't have anything to do, but because I simply had nothing left. I'd sleep 8 hours. I'd lie on the couch for hours. I'd rest, or so I thought. But every morning, I still woke up tired. And for the longest time, I believed that was just part of being an adult. Until I realized I wasn't really resting. I was just escaping. 1. Why you're still exhausted. Even after resting, I used to think I was just lazy. I'd come home from work, kick off my shoes, sink into the couch, and that was it. No energy to cook, no energy to call friends, not even to read a book I was genuinely excited about. And the weird part? I'd sleep 8 hours, I'd rest. I'd do nothing all evening, but I still woke up tired. It didn't make sense until I realized something important. There's a difference between doing nothing and actually resting. When we scroll on our phones for hours, binge watch 3 shows in a row, or just zone out in silence, we think we're recharging. But what we're really doing is numbing ourselves, not resting. It's like putting your phone in airplane mode and expecting the battery to go up. I remember one Friday night, I was exhausted. I ordered takeout, curled up under a blanket, and watched YouTube until 1 a.m. At first, it felt like comfort, but by the end, I felt even more drained. Not physically, but mentally empty, like I'd spent hours trying to escape, but hadn't actually gone anywhere. What I learned, rest isn't about the absence of activity. It's about the presence of recovery. Reading a few pages of a book that lights you up, taking a short walk with your favorite music, cooking something slowly with no rush, even just sitting outside, breathing. These are not chores, they're nourishment for your nervous system, for your soul. And once I understood that, I started looking at my post-work hours differently, not as wasted time, but as healing time. But even healing needs a start point, a signal to your brain that the workday is truly over. And that leads me to the next shift that changed everything for me. 2. The power of a mental reset, creating a transition ritual. There was a time when I'd close my laptop at 5 p.m. and somehow find myself scrolling Instagram at 5:02. Still tense, still thinking about that awkward email I sent, still in work mode, even though the workday was technically over, and I didn't even notice it. Because without a commute, without a clocking out moment, there was no boundary, just a blur, from work brain to home body, without the switch in between. Back when I had to drive home, I hated the traffic. But that 20-minute ride gave me something precious, a buffer, time to decompress, time to shake off the stress, time to breathe before walking into my personal life. So I decided to recreate it. I started taking a 10-minute walk after I closed my laptop each day. No phone, no music, just me, the street, and a bit of sky. At first, I felt silly. My neighbor asked, "Did you forget something?" I laughed and said, "Yeah, I forgot how to be a human." But over time, that walk became sacred. It became the line between who I am at work and who I get to be at home. That transition, or no matter how small, one sends a signal. The workday is over. You did enough. Now it's time for you. It doesn't have to be a walk. It could be lighting a candle, changing into comfy clothes, playing one specific end-of-day song, even just standing at the window with a cup of tea. The point is not the action, it's the intention behind it. And once I built that ritual in, my evenings began to feel mine again. But even with a reset, I still had one sneaky habit that kept pulling me back into autopilot. Let's talk about that innocent-looking couch and why it was secretly stealing my evenings. 3. Stop treating your couch like a trap. There's something dangerously comforting about the couch. It doesn't ask questions. It doesn't care if you've had a long day. It just welcomes you. Soft, warm, and ready to hold you for hours. And for a long time, I thought that was a good thing. I'd walk in the door, toss my bag aside, and fall right into the cushions. Just for a minute, I'd say. But minutes turned into hours. And before I knew it, it was bedtime. And I had done nothing that made me feel alive. The couch isn't evil, but what it represents, autopilot, numbness, passive living, that's what slowly drained me. I wasn't relaxing, I was escaping. I'd wake up the next day wondering where my evening went, wondering why I still felt empty, even though I had rested. So I tried something small. I made a rule. Before I sit on the couch, I have to do one intentional thing that reminds me I'm a human being. It didn't have to be productive. It just had to be real. Some days I'd stretch for 5 minutes. Some days I'd play a song and dance in the kitchen like a fool. Other days I'd chop vegetables and cook something just because it smelled like my childhood. What I learned, you don't need a massive evening routine. You just need a moment that's yours. And something beautiful happened. Once I did that one thing, even for 5 minutes, I enjoyed the couch more. It became a place to relax, not to disappear. I went from collapsing into the evening to stepping into it with presence. But there was something else that helped me shift gears even faster. Let's talk about the surprising power of music and why your evening might need its own soundtrack. 4. Music as medicine. Curating your post-work soundtrack. There are days when words don't work, when the mind is too tired to think, but the heart still needs to feel something. That's where music came in for me. One evening, after a long meeting that drained every drop of patience I had, I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to scroll. I didn't even want to decide what to do. So I put on a song, just one, a soft, slow melody I hadn't heard in years. And for the first time all day, I exhaled. That's when I realized music can be medicine. It doesn't ask anything from you. It just gives energy, calm, memory, movement, whatever you need in that moment. So I made a playlist. I called it After Work Me. The first few songs are slow, gentle, like stretching after a long sleep. Then it builds, rhythms that make my shoulders sway, my feet tap. By the middle of the playlist, I'm usually dancing, badly, gleefully, sometimes like an injured flamingo. I don't care, because something about letting your body move, even a little, reminds you that you're still here, that the day didn't take everything from you. What I learned, we don't just need to unwind, we need to shift states. Music is the bridge. It marks the end of work mode and the beginning of you. It fills the silence before the evening begins. It makes mundane moments, like washing dishes or folding laundry, feel like scenes from a film. So now every night I hit play, and with every beat I feel more me. But music wasn't the only thing I had to change. There was still one big problem. I was giving the best parts of myself, my energy, my focus, my kindness, to a job that would replace me in 2 weeks if I left. Let's talk about why it's time to reclaim your best energy for yourself. 5. Stop giving your best to what would replace you in 2 weeks. There was a moment, I remember it so clearly, when I sat staring at an Excel sheet at 7:48 p.m., exhausted, hungry, frustrated, and thought to myself, why am I doing this? For what? For who? The truth hit hard, but it was simple. I was giving my best energy to something that would forget me the minute I left. For years, I showed up early, stayed late, replied to emails after dinner, put out fires that weren't even mine to deal with. And don't get me wrong, I take pride in my work. But somewhere along the way, I forgot that doing a good job isn't the same as sacrificing yourself for it. One evening, I asked myself, if I gave even half this effort to me, what would my life look like? So I made some shifts, tiny ones. I stopped rereading emails 5 times before sending. I stopped saying yes to every quick favor that stole my focus. I stopped equating urgency with importance. And guess what? The world didn't end. My boss didn't fire me. My coworkers barely noticed. But I did, because suddenly I had energy left for my relationships, for my hobbies, for rest that actually rested me. What I learned, your job can be part of your life, but it shouldn't consume your life. We live in a culture that applauds burnout and calls it ambition. But no title, no paycheck, no line on your resume is worth feeling like a ghost in your own body by 6 p.m. You are not a machine. You are not your productivity. You are a whole person, and you deserve the best parts of you, too. 6. The art of saying no without burning bridges. For the longest time, I said yes to everything. Yes to after-hours meetings. Yes to dinner plans I didn't have energy for. Yes to favors I didn't have time to do. Yes, yes, yes. Even when my entire body was screaming no. Why? Because I didn't want to seem rude. Because I was afraid of letting people down. Because I thought being liked meant being available. Here's what that cost me: burnout, resentment, exhausted weekends, even moments where I showed up physically. But mentally, I was just a shell, counting the minutes until I could go home. Then something shifted. I read a sentence that stuck with me. Every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else, usually yourself. So I started saying no. Not with anger, not with long explanations, just kindly, clearly. Here's how it sounds. Instead of, sorry, I can't make it. I'm swamped. I feel bad. Maybe next time. Sorry again. I now say, "Yeah, that sounds great, but I'm keeping this evening for myself. Let's catch up another time." Simple, respectful, boundaried. And you know what? People didn't get mad. They understood. Most even appreciated the honesty. What I learned, saying